Happy Monday night, everyone. Welcome to Testimony Tuesday on a Monday night because it's summer and trying to do anything around here with kids. I've got Sarah. We just do this testimony thing whenever we possibly can. And so tonight, if you happen to be catching us live on Facebook or YouTube, maybe go outside and enjoy the sunset and enjoy the summer night. It is gorgeous out right now if you're anywhere close to me. But if you're catching this on Testimony Tuesday, happy Tuesday, or any other day of the week, I have Sarah with me today. And I told you on Facebook that it is a story that you are not going to want to miss. If you are a mama, if your heartstrings are just going to be pulled, let's just say that. She was telling me she might get emotional, and I was like, dang it, I forgot my tissues. So buckle up. It's going to be such a good one. And remember that this is much like a podcast. So do your dishes, go for a drive, just have us kind of in the background and listen to this fun story because it can get a little long, but man, the story just goes on and on and on. And we just have to get every little detail. So Miss Sarah, thank you for being with us tonight. And, just introduce yourself. Who are you? All the things.
My name is Sarah Earlywine, and I live in Missouri. I've been married to my husband for just about 15 years. His name is Daniel. I'm a teacher, getting ready to start my 18th year of teaching. That's pretty much the gist of it. We have one precious son who is our greatest blessing, and that's what we're here to talk about.
That's right. That's right. So Sarah and I met. Most of you know I was a teacher too, and that's kind of how we got connected. I did some shadowing, I guess, in Miss Earlywine, Sarah's classroom, man, my oldest had her in 5th grade, and so we are very connected in lots of ways. Mm-hmm. So Miss Sarah, we're going to dive right in. And so I just want you, and I've got pictures to show. So this is fun. Like, every now and again when she's talking about something, I've got some photos to show you. So it's going to be so good. But I want you to take back, you said you'd been married for 15 years, and that's what everyone dreams of, right? Like you find your significant other, you get married, you do the thing, you put a ring on it, and then you get jobs, you get established. And the next thing is maybe for many of us to start a family. And so just take us back there where it all kind of began.
So let's see, we met in 2007 and then we got married in 2010 and we kind of decided, it was pretty instant. We knew within like a couple months in 2007 that we were going to marry each other. Just had to wait for a while for him to finally propose. And then we got married in 2010 and we had kind of like, we all have a plan in mind for what we think things are going to be like after we get married, and kind of have like our own timeline that we feel like we're in control of, but we're really not. And so we kind of thought, hey, our first year of being married, let's do all the things, have all these adventures. And then after a year, we're going to start to grow our family. And God had a different plan for us. Turned out to be the perfect plan, which it's so hard to see that when you are in a waiting process of any type. But this was from 2010 to, let's see, we start, 1 year, so 2011, that is when we officially started trying. We never avoided trying to start our family, but in 2011, we're like, okay, let's go.
You have a handful of siblings, right? Like you both have.
Yes. So I have 3 older sisters. Okay. And they each have children. I wasn't anticipating there would be any issues for us to have kids biologically of our own. And then my husband has a twin brother and an older sister. And his older sister has 4 children. And I have to say, being an aunt is I don't know what I would have done without that title throughout the entire process. Yeah. So, and then 2011, we were like, hey, let's just officially start trying. And we didn't want to tell a soul because we were like, hey, we're probably going to be the last ones, maybe on each side of the family, to announce that we're pregnant. And so we want to keep this all secret, hush, hush, and surprise everyone. And so we did for a while. And after about a year, I don't know why we felt like we had to wait a long time. But after about a year, we were just like, okay, something's not really working like it should. Um, we don't know what's going on. And so I opened up to my mom and to my sisters about our struggles. And they gave me some advice and, I mean, an endless amount of support. And then we started reaching out to infertility specialists. And that was a very long process. That was from probably 2012 to 2017.
Dang.
And through that time, we basically were like, okay, we want to have children no matter what that looks like. And so as we were going through the infertility appointments, the medicine, the trials, the operations, the procedures, all the things, which none of that was covered by insurance, we were like, okay, let's start thinking about, do we want to adopt? Do we want to foster, possibly donor? Like all of these options and thoughts were going through our minds. And several of them we almost tried when we weren't thinking clearly, and we realized we need to be more prayerful about things. It's just weird how there were some roadblocks when we were about to do something, and then something else happened in a different aspect of our life, whether it be my dad's health or job related, or just something would come up and be like, okay, not right now. And we didn't click that button to get the donors because, hey, the nurse was calling me at the hospital with my dad. And that was like an angel saying, hey, this is not my plan that I have for you.
Yeah.
And I never knew it until like after everything unfolded in God's plan.
Can I ask you, and you don't have to go into, I told Sarah, like, be as generic as you want to be or as personal as you want to be.
Yes.
But I do know that there's going to be a lot of people here that are going to resonate with this.
Mm-hmm.
One, dealing with infertility, or I've opened up about losing a child. And so there's so many people that go through this, and it's unreal how common it is. But can you maybe explain, like, when you were going through the infertility, you were saying like procedures, pills, medicines, doctors, like what, maybe tell us, maybe don't, what you did try, what you didn't, or like what, really quick, just what did that process look like for you?
So it was, they gave me Clomid and all the types of medicine for like a year. And my body just wasn't responding well to it. I was going in for like monthly blood checks, just to kind of see what my levels were at. And some of that really, honestly, it's crazy how when you're on the other side of things, now that we have our son, where a lot of that has become just kind of a blur and kind of pushed to the side because I'm just like, hey, I don't need to worry about that now. But so for me, it was a year of medicine, blood work, ultrasounds, like all of the things. And then after a year of that, they started looking at my husband a little bit more as well. And we just found out that there were complications on each side. And my husband, we were just kind of like, both of us, let's try everything and anything. I kind of actually, when we got married, I was like anticipating we weren't even really going to have to try. And so all of this caught me completely off guard. And I'm a planner, I'm an organizer, I'm very type A. And so when things started not to fall into place, I was like, what do I do? It was very overwhelming for me and my husband. And then also playing like the part of like, it's an issue for both, but then also like we both long for this. We have this desire in our hearts to be parents, but then also trying to be aware of each other's feelings through it because we're both, it's just really hard. Sometimes it's like, hey, in these situations, if you're an outsider, you don't know what to say to someone when they're going through a difficult time or and it could be any difficult time, not just infertility or a loss or, but you just kind of are at a loss of words. But it was kind of like, okay, how do I support my husband?
Yeah.
And then my husband, how do I support my wife? What do I say? What do I not say?
All the while probably losing a little bit of hope after every doctor, after every pill, after, you know.
It was like I feel like there's been a couple of moments in my life where it's been really tested my faith.
Yeah.
And this by far was the biggest and the longest. I went through a really dark time. And a roller coaster of it as well. Like you would think you would be out of it, and then, oh no, there's a trigger. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I realized was so important for me through all of this, is that I can identify my triggers. Yes. And because I'm still going to have them. I mean, anybody who's experienced like loss, infertility, anything, like you're still going to have those moments that trigger you. So anyways, we went through every procedure you can think of, both of us. And like I said, that was from 2012 to 2017. Okay. And then in January 2017, we found out for sure after the last procedure and most invasive, that we had a less than 1% chance of ever having a child biologically of our own.
Wow.
And by then we had determined, before that, I would say it was probably about 2016, we decided for sure if we couldn't have a child of our own biologically, that we would adopt. Okay. And so by the time we got to that January 2017 mark, we had already chosen our top 3 adoption agencies. So that was kind of like a little bit of what we felt like we could do through the pain and the struggle of everything else, was to kind of have let's take our first step. And none of that was meeting face to face with an adoption agency or anything like that. That was all just research and networking that I had done, and my husband as well, for us to kind of figure out what we were looking for in an agency, and the support that they would have for us, birth parents, and our children. And then
this is finally something you can control, right? Like now we're seeing like, okay, that's in the past. You know, we've swallowed the pill. We can't have any on our own.
Yes.
Now we can control this.
Yeah. And then, so that was in January 2017. And then we had a quick pause because my dad started hospice just at the end of that month. And we thought he was going to be in hospice. Everybody did, even the hospice nurses, they thought he was going to be in hospice for a couple years. And it was less than 2 months that he was called home. And so then I was battling different emotions, and I didn't know how to navigate any of it really. And, you know, I was focused on supporting my mom and my sisters and my amazing nieces and nephews. And I even, with my dad, you know, one of my last conversations I had with my dad, he was telling me all like the crazy things that he wanted each of my nieces and nephews to have. And it was like a random keychain or a coin or something in a drawer. But then he got to me and he was like, for you, I want you to know that when I get up there, I'm going to get you a baby. And you just know that before you hold that baby, that I met him or her before he got to you. And so I had those special moments that I was able to have with my dad. And by the way, I come from an insanely close family. Yes. And so that was really big for me. But then after that, I had unexpected separation anxiety with my mom after I lost my dad. And it took me a few months to be like, okay, let's get back in this adoption and let's figure out how we're going to navigate this. Let's pick our agencies. It wasn't until the summer of 2017 that I was like, let's get this going. Dad wouldn't want me to keep going forward with it. Daniel was very supportive of when I felt like I was ready to jump back in again, totally understanding, which is such a blessing that he was so supportive in that, because kind of I held him up as well, so he never made me feel that way. It was all self-inflicted. But then finally, so the fall of 2017, we started considering different agencies. Our 3 top ones. One of our choices was in Overland Park, Kansas. And once we figured out the price of that, and it was non-for-profit, we were like, okay, that's not happening.
I can only imagine you're already either in debt or you've definitely hit your pocketbook through the infertility stuff.
Yes. And that's the hard thing that there is to juggle with infertility, is you're willing to try all these things, go through all these procedures, and you're not guaranteed anything. None of us are guaranteed anything at all.
Sure.
But you're willing to give it all because of that desire that is so heavily in your heart, and you feel like you have a calling for that. And so we quickly ruled out that one, which narrowed us down to 2. And one was very local to where we live. And I thought for sure, hey, we're going to go with this agency. And when we got that, I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, like finally, like we're meeting face to face, like this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So giddy about it and overjoyed. And we go in, and my husband and I have a meeting with this agency planned, and it just did not go as we thought it would. I didn't feel very connected. And I kind of felt like we had to like pitch our story a little bit. And I will say, going backwards a little bit, I did do a lot of meetings with an infertility and loss support group called Worth the Wait.
Okay.
And so there, when we met, that was such a blessing, that group. And it was like, hey, come if you can handle it. If you can, it's fine. If you want to come and just sit and listen, you can. If you want to come and talk your heart out, go ahead and do it. And through that, I learned that, nobody should ever have to sell their story or anything like that. And I kind of felt like we had to with this agency. And I just didn't feel, I was kind of heartbroken when we left, because I was like, okay, I thought this was it. Like, I thought that tomorrow, hey, we're going to be starting this paperwork and hopefully we'll have a baby in a month. Totally not realistic.
Noted. Anybody listening, you want to adopt? Noted.
But I was just totally all in it. And so then after a couple weeks of realizing how disappointed I was like, okay, we need to meet this other agency. And I'm totally a signs person. Like, God, give me the signs, send me the God winks. Like I that's kind of what usually leads my path. Mm-hmm. And we decided we had to travel a little bit for this next agency, and we were getting off the highway, and the road that was leading us right off the highway was my maiden name, my maiden last name. And I grabbed my husband's arm as we're driving there, and I was like, do you see that? That says Shank. And he like spelt the right way, which is totally unheard of. And like, he was like, oh my gosh. We got all the feels. And I was like, okay, I'm getting my hopes up again. I had to tell myself quickly to like, hey, you learned last time, like, don't get your hopes up. This may not turn out the way you want it to be. and be prepared for that.
Yeah.
So we go into this meeting with this agency, and it was picture perfect. We walked into a room, and our infertility story, like, I think in our country it falls into like less than 2% of Americans, how rare it is. And the lady from our agency that's head up, she had the same as us, as my husband and I, her
Wow.
and her husband. And they had binders, they had folders. They were like, tell us whatever you want. Don't tell us anything. Like, here's all the information for you. And it was just like, I felt comfortable. I felt at home. And my husband and I just shared everything. And it turned out that there were some similarities with someone in the agency, which is very uncommon. And I just felt like it was right.
Wow.
And so that would have been like December 2017, January 2018.
Okay. Can I ask you a quick question just because I'm curious?
Yeah.
These were all in the United States, it sounds like. Could
Yes.
you, or is there agencies that you could have chosen overseas?
So our agency does do international and domestic and embryo adoption, actually.
Okay.
So does all of that, and they are licensed in 10 states in our country. We had decided to do domestic adoption. There was a lot of, once you choose adoption, it's kind of like, okay, you're not done making your decisions yet, because the first battery or list of options is what type of adoption. Do you want domestic, international, or embryo? And we just kind of both, without hesitation, we're like, domestic is what we'll do. Less travel, less, we were just kind of worried about work as well. And also the financial aspect of it as well. So there were a lot of things, but we didn't hesitate with domestic. So we were like, okay, that's clear to both of us. Let's go on that. And then once we decided on our agency, then it was all of the phases to prepare, which is a lot. There are so many times through that part of our journey, that's probably where I felt like it wasn't fair. Like, having sisters that have kids, friends that have kids. I'm a teacher, having parents that have, parents of students I teach that they have their children. Like, okay, nobody else has to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Why do I? And so that is probably through that phase to where we were officially waiting. That was my biggest hurdle, was, why do I have to do all these things and this person doesn't? And, through all of this, it was hard to go to baby showers. It was hard to see announcements. It was, Mother's Day was extremely hard. And I am a church goer through and through. But let me tell you, there were several years, Mother's Day, I could not go to church. And I felt so bad about that. And it took me a while to realize that that was valid, and that God understands, and it was okay. I asked for forgiveness. I did prayerful things throughout that day, and I still do. Mother's Day is a joy for me now, but I carry that joy a little bit differently than I ever thought, because of our journey, and because of, I think of my son's birth mother. I think of other women who are longing to have that title and can't, or are waiting in some sort for that title. So then 2018 in January, we officially started with our agency. And that was the orientation phase, where it was just, hey, let's get acquainted. with all of the adoption laws in the 10 states that our agency is licensed with. Let's sign off an agreement for that. And that was the first phase.
Okay.
And then our agency, how it works is each phase that you complete, you owe a significant amount of money
I was going to ask that. Okay.
in order to go on to the next phase. Now, I will say all this was like 2018, 2019, and prices have increased drastically since then. But so that was the first phase, was orientation. And then it was basically a combination of a lot of things, from doctor's visits for my husband and I to prove that we were healthy, everything you can think of, medical tests, blood tests. We had to have like doctors write us that we were healthy and capable.
Just so vulnerable.
Yeah. And then we had to do, basically everything from our finances, proving that we had the money to afford and care for a child. And then we had to also have letters of recommendation. We had to have so many family relatives and so many non-family relatives write letters to our agency saying that basically that they thought they would think that we would be good parents.
Yeah.
My husband and I each had to write a letter about ourselves, about each other. So I had to write one for my husband and vice versa, as to like why we feel that, my husband be a good father, and why he would think that I would be a good mother. And I will say the agency that we picked, they're faith-based, non-for-profit.
Okay.
And also another big reason that we picked them was that the birth mother or parents gets to pick
Gotcha.
the adoptive parents. And that was really important to us, is that they had to.
Yeah.
So then it was, after that, it was, we had to do adoption education. We had to become infant first aid and CPR certified. And then we had to take, oh my gosh, I believe it was about 36 hours of adoption education, anything from reading a book to webinars. And then we also had to network with a family from our agency, which was very helpful, that had adopted. Like a list of families that you can reach out to that are willing to share their story, just to give you like some authentic experience and questions to ask that maybe you wouldn't think about. And then we also had to go through a phase of like, hey, what adoption do we see as the vision for our family? Closed, open, or right in the middle? So then we had decided open adoption, just because of the education that we had received. We thought that would be best. But we were also more than willing to do whatever the birth mother or parents would have wanted.
I don't really know what that means. What do you mean open adoption?
So open adoption is just where you have an open line of communication with the birth mother, birth father.
Okay.
One of them or both of them. Closed adoption. And also you usually have more access to possible records, health records, and things like that. Closed adoption, like no contact. And then, semi would be a little bit of both.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so we had educated ourselves mostly on open, just because we thought that would be the best interest of our future child or children.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was the home study process. And that was them visiting our house, having face-to-face interview with us. Um, and that was, I was most nervous about that part, but it actually turned out to be like my favorite because you got to be face-to-face with your advocate and get to know them on a more intimate level, rather than doing all this paperwork and submitting everything. And, um, it was a lot. It took us from January 2018 to May 2019 to be completely finished with everything.
I'm just sitting here like you started it by talking about Mother's Day and how it does feel different. And I mean, I have 3 boys, and it was like you basically had to create a resume and go through college to be a mom.
Yeah.
And they don't train us, the ones that can. I'm also like, they just throw us in the dark. But
Yes.
it is crazy the difference. And I get like definitely some of the reasons why, to make sure there aren't just crazy people out there adopting everybody. But man,
yeah, it was a lot. And through everything, I asked myself, well, like I said, why do I have to do this? And that was the hard part for me.
Yeah.
However, like now that we're where we are now, I learned so much through all of those things, every single phase. In fact, it wasn't until like just a couple months ago, one of the people that wrote us a reference letter that's not a family relative, like some of them shared their letters with us and some of them didn't. And this one shared their letter with us. And I, of course, I read it like as it was received. But there was also a card that she wrote with it to me. And I didn't, for some reason, I don't know if it was like I can't read it or couldn't read it, or I don't know why. But I didn't read it. And I didn't read it until just like, I want to say it was about a month ago.
Wow.
And it was the most moving letter that I have probably ever read in my entire life. And, I was so in it as to like, as far as like my husband and I and what we want for our future. It wasn't until that letter that I read that she wrote me that I didn't realize the weight that the people that loved us and supported us the most, that they were caring for us.
Yes.
And I always knew how loved and supported we were through everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it was when I read that letter, I was like, man. And then I reflected on like my family, my friends, my nieces and nephews, just kind of like realizing like, hey, they may not have been the ones waiting, but they were waiting with us.
Yes, that's a good word.
And like, it was just a very, I even told my mom, I'm like, I read this letter just now. And she was like, what, why? And I was like, I don't know why I never read it, but it was in God's timing and I really needed it. Which that I'll get into in a little bit as to why that timing happened that way. And, it just opened my eyes to the other side of things.
Yeah.
And also made me realize how through our waiting time, how, important that was, because I was able to grow in so many different aspects of my life and build, strengthen relationships in every aspect of my life, which I'm so thankful for, because now looking back on that, now that I am a mom and I see how busy life is and you don't really have a second ever to yourself, how thankful I am that I had that time to be with my nieces and nephews and some of my bonus nieces that I call them, and make memories with them. Now, a lot of them are very much so older now, and they may not remember all of those moments, and they may never really realize the role that they played for me in filling a void that I had in my heart.
Yeah.
But I will always cherish those moments, and I hope to someday be able to verbalize to them or communicate to them in some way, like, hey, you really saved me during that time.
Yeah.
You were my angels on earth. And so that really opened up my eyes when I was going through our reference letters and going through adoption stuff. And I found that letter, and it was
That's
just,
awesome.
it was amazing and
That's so
such
cool.
a gift. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we kind of made it through college now.
Yeah.
We've passed.
Yeah.
We feel like we actually can do this thing. So now, like, where are we at now?
Yeah. So then in May 2019, we were officially waiting. And, we were told, with our agency that, oh gosh, like average wait time would be like a year to a year and a half.
Okay.
Every once in a while was quicker, but really it's unpredictable, but that was their estimate. And then we were also notified that, hey, once you get notified that you're matched, you usually have like 2 weeks until the birth of your child or up to 10 days after. So very minimal time to plan.
Wow.
So then we were like, when we found out that, we were like, okay, we need to get some things, but we don't want to get too much because like I said, I'm type A. I like to have things planned and organized, but I also know that it was going to be extremely hard for me to look at something for a year and a half.
That was my thought.
Wasn't filling that room or that crib or that outfit or anything like that. So we chose to not really get anything. My family, being the proactive go-getters that they are, got us what they thought that we would need if we got the phone call really quick and needed to go. Got us the car seat, the stroller, the pack and play, diaper bag, just the essentials.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that because then I felt a little bit prepared.
Right.
And then we, let's see, so we started our waiting process. And of course, every time the phone rang from that moment until September 2nd, 2021, when we actually were matched, it was like, it would stop my heart. Like, is this, especially if it was an unknown phone number, which I never answered the phone to a phone number I don't know, but I had to during this time frame. So then it became hey, I'm a teacher. How do we go about possibly having a long-term sub for me when I don't really know when anything's going to happen?
Right.
And my school district was so supportive. They were like, hey, let's just communicate to your families. Let's be honest, and we'll do what we can on our end. We'll have some people ready. So then I started that process, and man, let me tell you, there was, next to my nieces and nephews on my side of the family and my husband's, throughout this waiting process, my students, oh my gosh, because they were the ones that were living it with me probably the most besides my husband. And more than one group of students too, because of the long time that we waited. And I would tell them, hey, my phone will never be on ring, but, I'll have it on vibrate. If I have to answer it, I'm sorry. It could be this, but, very likely not, just to kind of keep everybody at ease. So that's how I taught from the year 2019 to 2020, and then 2020 to 21, and the beginning of 2021.
I can only imagine, I'm sitting here thinking, trying to, be in your shoes. You're also waiting for someone to choose you.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting feeling, and then how you can get in your head, I'm sure, about, this
Um,
long wait and why aren't they choosing me and what's wrong with us and this whole thing all over again.
yes. And, and through that, we had to create, before 2019, when we were waiting in that May of 2019, we had to create like our profile, which is basically like a glorified Shutterfly book of pictures all about my husband and I and our families and our interests and our jobs. And that was basically for birth parents that were coming in to look at if you matched their preferences.
Wow.
And so, and like that was a whole nother part of the journey that was so hard
Yeah.
to say yes and no to things. And this was probably where I felt the most selfish because you have to pick. Do you want an infant only or not? And in the very beginning, we chose infant only, and I felt super selfish for that. But I was like, I want that experience.
Yeah.
And when we had been waiting a very long time, I want to say it was probably towards spring 2021, we decided to have it be from like infancy to like 1 year
Okay.
that we were willing to be matched with because we had been waiting so long.
Yeah.
And through that time was also COVID. And when we started waiting, we were one of 100, I think 57 families in our agency waiting,
Okay.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
And through COVID, that number grew.
Hmm.
And also, there were a lot of, I can't imagine what birth parents were going through, but
Right.
some birth parents were choosing not to adopt just because of the fear of the unknown with COVID.
Mhm.
So there was all of that in our, time frame that we were officially waiting as well.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah. And then so then let's see, I can fast forward to when we found out we were matched.
Okay.
So then okay, so 2019, May 2019 to September 2021, Daniel and I pretty much so did nothing. We didn't travel. We were like, we're saving every penny. We're going to be ready for a phone call at any time. I mean, I think we left the state of Missouri maybe once. I mean, I don't know. We just were kind of, ready to go at any time.
Right. You just sacrifice everything. I mean, it's what you want.
Yes. And so then the school district that I teach at, they have a senior trip that our seniors go on, and teachers are their sponsors and help them kind of fundraise for the year, and then take them to Disney and the beach and Universal. And one of my dearest friends reached out to me and she was like, be a sponsor with me, be a sponsor with me. And this would have been in the spring of 2020, maybe 2021. I don't know. She'll correct me after this, I'm sure. It would have been in the spring of 2021. And she was like, do this with me. And so Danielle and I, like, you know what? We haven't done anything. This is going to keep us busy. This is going to distract us. Let's just do it. And so, we were distracted from the winter of 2021 to when we were matched in the fall of 2021.
Okay.
With fundraising, concession stands, all the things for the senior trip, with such a great senior class that was with us through it all. And then we found out on September 2nd, well, actually, let's say September 1st, I got an email from our agency saying, hey, your profile has been pretty active, and I have a couple questions from a possible birth mother that she has for you. And I immediately texted my family and some of my close friends, and I was like, okay, something is happening. I really don't know what, but this has not happened since we've been waiting. And I'm very nervous about it. And then not only that, I don't want to answer these questions wrong, but I also want to be honest. It kind of felt like Monica and Chandler from Friends, where
Don't screw this up now.
yeah, where like the birth mother read the wrong letter or got the file, and I was like, oh my gosh, Sarah, don't mess anything up. And my sister Lynn was talking with her on the phone, like, and she was kind of like, Sarah, just be yourself, answer them, be honest, like, and I totally was. And the next day, one of my dear friends that I work with came down to my classroom and was like, I like really couldn't sleep last night. Like, what's going on? Like, have you heard anything? Like, I'm like, I don't know what's going on either. It probably was like, so that was in the night of September 1st, 2021. And then the morning of September 2nd, 2021, not mind you, fully functioning, like teaching, doing all the things that I totally would, but totally distracted at the same time. And I didn't want to like say anything because I was nervous that that it would all crumble as quickly as it was coming together. And so I want to say it was probably like mid-morning, September 2nd, 2021. We got an email from our advocate saying, hey, I want to Zoom with you guys. I have, want to do an update with you guys. It's been a while because they're supposed to do an update like every 6 months to a year, just checking in with us. And we were getting close to that year mark. And so immediately I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that wasn't anything. Like that, all of that failed. I answered something wrong. And she was like, but I really want to do this quickly, our advocate. So I'd like to Zoom with you guys this evening. And I called my husband right away and I'm like, we have to work concession stands tonight for the senior class. I'm like, we're not going to be getting home until like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm not waiting that long. Can we Zoom from work? And so my husband and I weren't even together physically. We Zoomed during my plan time because my husband has a very flexible, well, at that time, had a very flexible work schedule during the day as to when he could, take a quick phone call. And so we scheduled it around my plan time that same exact day. And of course, my close and dear friends that I work with, they were in the room right next door.
Stalkers.
And we got on our Zoom call and our advocate was like, so you're matched. Like those were her first words. And we were like, okay, like unreal emotions, feelings.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know how to react. I was like, okay, like what questions do I, like everything that I had planned. Like questions I need to ask when we're matched, all these things. I'm like, I'm not at home. I don't have that binder. I don't have that notebook. What do I do? And my husband and I were just like, we're not even together physically. We're looking at each other through a screen. And we're just both like, what? So then we asked, like, when's the due date? What gender? Do we know the gender? Because, we had to sign an agreement saying that, like, we wouldn't request a specific gender with our agency. Just like, if we were to get pregnant on our own, you don't get to pick. So totally made sense to us. And so then we asked just a list of questions. We were told that it was a boy, that it was the due date was Halloween, which my nephew Carter is the biggest Halloween lover. So automatically I'm like, he even like his birthday is in December and he like moved his birthday for several years to Halloween. So yeah. And so I was super excited. And then we have the option of accepting the match or not. So then it was, what do we know about the birth mother or the birth father? What type of adoption are they wanting? Daniel and I were in agreement of all the things, which it was going to take a lot for us not to agree with something. And um, then we ended the Zoom call during my plan time. I had like, I don't know, maybe 10 to 12 minutes left of my plan time. And then I was going to have to go get these fifth graders and continue teaching the rest of the day. And so then went right next door to my partner teacher's room, and two of my best friends were there in that room as well. And I just collapsed into their rooms and into their arms in that room. And I was like, it's a boy. And they were like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, what is happening right now? And I was like, okay, I got to call people. Who do I call? Okay, my husband and I didn't talk about it. Who are we going to tell? Who are we not going to tell? Like, there was just so many things. And mind you, that was September 2nd, and the due date was October 31st, which is abnormally long
Okay.
of a time that you have from when you get the phone call to the
Yeah.
birth of the child. And so I was like, man, we have all these, we can get the things, we can get it all planned and organized. So ready to go on all the things. And I called one of my sisters during my plan time because, man, you should have seen the mass text through my sisters and my mom during the Zoom all throughout that day. I was like, what is going on? Like, I even have like printed off pictures of like screenshots that I took of our conversations because I was like, our future child needs to know like all of this. And I just added all of that to while we were waiting. Something that I did was I journaled for 11 years in a journal book. And then I also, along with that, and I wrote everything, every appointment, every memory, every distraction my husband and I tried to do, every God wink that we had. I wrote it all in there. And then we also, while we were waiting, starting in May 2019, we also got a picture book, board book for our future child. And we also wrote about things that we did that month to prepare for them, or that we did with the two of us, or anything like that.
That's so amazing.
People we visited. So had quite a book collection just from us from waiting. And so I added all those screenshot pictures all to that. And then I called my sister at the end of my plan time. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't even know if I can like focus. And I'm like, you, what about me? And so then I was like, okay, Sarah, you can do this. You can go pick up your students. You can teach. You can do this. And so I went to go pick up my students, which, you know, to this day, I always call my students my kids because they're in my heart, just like they are. And went to pick up my kids from their specials and got back to my classroom. One of my dear friends that was in the room waiting for me next door through the Zoom had gone out to the store and gotten a card for me and Rice Krispie treats in, like, of course, blue wrapping, and was like, I can't remember the exact words, but it was like, celebrate with your students. They'll understand later, basically. And so got back to my classroom with my students. I'm like, okay, we really do need to get, you know, X, Y, and Z finished. You know, I need to stay focused in teaching. We can celebrate at the end of the day. That lasted maybe about 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And then my students had like a 45-minute extra recess.
Yeah, there's no focusing.
Went outside to the playground. I called my mom on the playground. And, you know, of course, I never have my phone, like, I'm never talking on my phone, like, at school like that ever. And my students kept like coming up close to me, and I'm like, okay, go burn some energy. Like, this is important. You know, remember, I told you I'm going to have to make important phone calls sometimes and things like that. And so then they started talking. I'm like, no, like, just, you know, go do your thing, go play. And so I called my mom and I called my other sisters. Um, and they were just like busting at the seams. Like all of them, their reactions, I mean, I thought they were going to be my favorite reactions that I've ever experienced in my life. And I had no idea it was going to get better. And so I got through the school day. My husband had to rush to school after his work because we were working concession stands.
Okay.
So, no time to really like
Process it all. Yeah.
we were just like, okay, we have to work concession stands and we're not really going to let a whole lot of people know because there's a lot of unknown for us and we haven't had time to really talk. So we worked concession stands and on the way home we called some of we called my mother-in-law and my father-in-law and, my husband's side of the family on the way home. And we got home and I was at home for maybe 10 minutes. And my dear friend that was the co-sponsor with us for this senior trip was like, "Are you at home?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just got home." And like, you probably know I'm at home because I worked concession stands. You knew I was working concession stands and, I'm going to get home. You know about all the things. You were in the room next door. And she's like, "Okay, I'm in the parking lot." And I'm like, "What?" And so go to the door and there she is with all the Disney baby clothes and all of the things and just like jumping and leaping into my arms and celebrating with me, which was so hard because, you always, when you're, trying to get pregnant or anything, you have a vision for everything. How we're going to announce that we're pregnant, who we're going to tell, how we're going to tell them, all these things. You share your excitement. And it was just like my husband and I, and, my family, both of our families, don't live like super close to us.
Right.
And so this dear friend of mine, Corinne, she has no idea. Like that was a godsend that she was right there. Yeah. And so we celebrated and then she left and Daniel and I are like, okay, well, where do we go from here? And
Right.
our anniversary is on September 4th. And so then the next day, it was a Friday. The next day, September 3rd was a Friday. And my sisters and my mom were like, "Hey, what are your plans for an anniversary?" I'm like, I don't know. Like shopping for baby stuff. Like, I don't really know. Like, I'm trying to just still go through all these things and all these questions I have. And so they turned out surprising us. Two of my sisters and my mom came out on our anniversary that Saturday. Of course, they brought with a bundle of things that we needed that we didn't get, like a diaper genie and some books and some outfits and all the things. And then from there on, from September 2nd to September 15th, we were just kind of like on cloud nine. Like, oh my gosh, like this is really happening. We couldn't be more excited. And our birth mother was so amazing. On September 15th, we met her face to face and with our advocate. And then we also were able to go to an ultrasound and hear our son's heartbeat before he was born.
Wow.
Just, she never, I don't know, will ever understand how much of a gift that was because, when you choose adoption, you know that there are things that you may never experience. I may never hear my child's heartbeat before they're born. And I may never experience an ultrasound appointment or anything like that. And we were able to.
That's cool.
And then I wasn't prepared for what was going to come next. We got home that night, and of course, by then we have quite a collection of things that we're organizing and preparing, and furniture we're getting rid of as well to make more room for all of the things. And then I got into I wasn't prepared for this. I don't know if anybody ever is, but then I was like, how committed is she? I knew she was committed. And now I'm like, this is such a good thing. Like, Dina, we have over a month left.
Yeah.
Is this a good thing knowing this far in advance? Like, so then it was like a roller coaster, like I could never explain the ups and downs multiple times throughout the day. Um, and every day until he was born. And then there's the whole legal side of it, you know, our um, adoption communication, what we want that to look like with the birth mother, birth father, all of that, navigating that, and trying to make sure that we're doing what's best for our child and our future family. Um, and then also support the birth mother as much as possible because, man, she is about to give us the best gift and such the biggest act of love I have ever witnessed here on earth. I can't imagine. Um, I don't know if I've ever met a person as strong as her. And I didn't realize that until we were in the hospital. Um, and I should say, until we were leaving the hospital. And we were there. So then we went through, let's see, October. My school district, my school family is the best. And they put together a little shower for us and got us some other things on our list that we needed. And October rolled around and we were both getting pretty antsy. And we had scheduled a like little getaway in our state. Of course, we're not leaving our state, but we had scheduled a little getaway like months before this. And it was the weekend right before our son was supposed to be due. And we were like, do we do this? Do we not? We had it for 4 days and we're like, okay, we're going to go for 1 day just in case something happens. And so our birth mother, she wound up getting COVID right at the end of right at the end of her pregnancy. And her hospital plan was also for us to be in the room, experience all the things. And of course, with COVID, that was about to change things. Mm-hmm. However, the date that we went to the hospital, they wound up moving up her date a little bit. Her due date was October 31st. They had us scheduled to be induced on October 26th. Well, wound up taking a lot longer than we thought. Long story short, he was born on October 27th. But there were complications during labor and delivery. And that picture that you just showed was probably my favorite picture, maybe to this day, just because it reminded me of our journey. Yeah. It wrapped around in trusting in God and being prayerful. And there were some scary moments, just like I'm sure there is in several labor and deliveries, but I had never experienced anything like that, of course. And I was thankful for the gift of being able to experience it all. But Daniel, like that picture says, he was my rock. He still is our rock to this day. He keeps us grounded and centered in God being the center of our family, and we love him more than we love each other. And that moment, I was just like, okay, God's got this. I was so scared and worried about, hey, is she really committed? Is this going to change after he gets here? Right. And I was sitting at the bedside and I looked at that picture. I looked at him, I snapped that picture, and I was like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It might be bumpy. It's not, there's going to be some twists and turns, but we'll get this figured out and we've got this. And He was born just after midnight on October 27th. And this was, of course, during COVID. And we couldn't have any visitors at the hospital. Oh my gosh, this nurse right here. She was our godsend. It was COVID. We couldn't have visitors. My family was wanting to like tailgate in the parking lot. They were wanting to be there for everything. But it was like we had visitors because we had our advocate, our attorney, the social worker with us almost the entire time. And that nurse, there are angels that are placed with us here on earth, and she was a huge one. Um, she checked on, nobody has to check on me, and our hospital was very accommodating to adoption.
Okay.
So, we had our own room, and and like I said, no nurse needs to check on me, but she was Merlin's nurse, but she was always checking on me too. And she was with us both days that we were there. And right before that picture was taken, she told me, she was like, when I left work last night, I called my mom and I was like, I can't give you much information, Mom, but this family's going through it right now. And there's a lot of unknown. But man, they love this baby so much. And they have been waiting so long. She was like, please pray for them. And she got me through some really hard moments at the hospital. Like I said, we weren't close to home, and couldn't have a whole lot of family there. We Zoomed for family to meet him. We FaceTimed like crazy. This entire time, not knowing how things were truly going to end. There was a lot of up and back in the hospital, which I hadn't emotionally prepared myself for that because I was kind of like, hey, this is happening. So focused on the joy of it and not the other side. And I think at the moment, there are so many times when adoptive mothers especially feel like maybe they won't feel the connection with their child because you're carrying the child. And I will never forget, he went back to get circumcised, and the nurses came to me and they were like, okay, like, I think that, Sarah, I think you need to like step out of the room, maybe go down to the food court. It's been a lot. He's going to be fine. And of course, Dina was like, yep, I'm getting you out of this room. We're going down to the food court and the cafeteria. And we went down there. And if anybody knows my husband, anywhere we go to eat or anything, it's let's have a long amount of time to make our decisions for what we're going to eat. And I want people's recommendations. And we're talking about a cafeteria at a hospital, and it was still happening. And this was also the furthest away that I had been from Merlin since he was born. And I'm thankful I experienced this because it made me realize how instantly connected I was.
Yeah.
After about a minute and a half of looking at Daniel, look at the menu and all the options, I'm like, hey, just get me a cheeseburger and bring it upstairs. I'm going. I've been away for too long. I was a hot mess. I was worried like crazy. What if something had happened to him? I go back upstairs, get off the elevator, and one of his nurses was standing right there, and she was like, you're Merlin's mom. And I lost it. And she was just like, that was the first time really that, I had been called, you're Merlin's mom. And I was like, yeah, I am. And they talked to me about like how stinking cute he is and how precious he is. And I was like, okay, so when do I get to hold him? See, right now, I want him in my arms. So then he was born on October 27th, like I said, just right after midnight. And we were at the hospital very early on the morning of. October 26th. And October 28th, in the evening, we left the hospital with Merlin. And that was really hard, um, because I thought about the birth mother.
Yeah.
She gave us the best gift we've ever received and will ever receive. And just praying for her constantly. Because right now she's going to be grieving. And that's going to be endless. And so we left the hospital and we had quite a road trip home with, not even, he wasn't even 2 days old. And I think I checked to make sure he was breathing about 8,352 times in his car seat, and held his finger the whole way. He traveled great. We didn't have to stop for feeding or anything like that. And we made it home. And I felt so overjoyed, at peace, but also still a little bit worried and scared because there was still more time before parental rights could be assigned in the state of Missouri.
Okay.
The birth father can sign at any time to give up parental rights, but the birth mother has to wait 48 hours after birth. Okay. And so we left the hospital before that 48 hours. And we were just very nervous. And it didn't happen quick. It was when he was 1 week old that everything was, I think it was like November 2nd was when we found out it had been done, and we had our first virtual court date. Yep, that's it. And that basically kicked off the next 6 months, which is the post-adoption phase with our agency. And that requires every month for the first month, there's some sort of contact, and it either has to be 3 of them have to be by phone and 3 of them in person. And so then that journey started, and it was, let me tell you, that weekend was Halloween weekend. And I told my family, I'm like, hey, we told both of our families, like, hey, we want to have them go to the doctor, our doctor first, just to make sure everything's okay. And then we'll start to open up our doors. And we had one of my friends, Mackenzie, she showed up that morning with coffee and was like, hey, congratulations, like, got to hold him, and was the first person that was able to meet him. And then that evening after his doctor's appointment, we had my friend Corinne. She came over to meet him. And then the next day we had my friend Jamie and one of our bonus nieces come over to meet him. And the next moment was something I was truly never thought I could experience so much joy. Was my sister Elizabeth was rushing to get to where we live to get to meet him. And she walked into our home, and I was sitting on the floor holding Merlin, and she just fell to the floor crying, just so many tears of happiness and joy. And then that just didn't stop the rest of the day and the rest of the weekend. I never will know, like, the joy you have from having a child of your own, and giving birth and having everyone meet him. But man, I didn't know that this type of joy could exist. And, then, my mom getting to meet him and my husband's parents getting to meet him and our nieces and nephews, and all these people that were such a significant part of our journey and were with us every second of this wait are now getting to see the joy.
Yes.
And we were still nervous because that first weekend, parental rights hadn't been signed.
Mm.
We were, you know, do we invite people to meet him? What do we do? We're like, man, we need support. And I mean, it just turned out to be absolutely beautiful and perfect. And then, like I said, Daniel and I really didn't do much as far as like traveling or anything really while we were waiting. And I feel like before we were matched, like things started to get planned, of course. And then, of course, we were matched, like being sponsors for the seniors. And then, even before that, my mom scheduled a huge family trip over Thanksgiving weekend 2021. And, lo and behold, we have a little one ready to go with us on this trip with my family. And it was like a God thing. One of the other neatest things was you hear this all the time from, or often, like, hey, our child's adopted, but he looks just like you guys. And from the moment our son was born, man, my husband through and through, like,
I agree.
like right as soon as he was born, it was such a God thing. And now that he's getting a little older, people even say me sometimes,
Mhm.
more so my husband still, which I'm okay with.
It is crazy.
It's just, um, it's pretty remarkable. And then, let's see. So we did that big family trip in November, and now meanwhile we were still having phone calls once a month or in-person visits from our agency, and that's just to prove that we're doing all the things. We had to document every doctor's appointment during that first 6 months. Had to have permission to travel, whether it was in state or out of state. So we had to have permission to go to, of course, Florida with the seniors. And yes, we took our 5-month-old son with us and a group of 17 and 18-year-old seniors, and which turned out to be a blessing. They were a huge help. And then I want to say it would have been May. In May, we had his gotcha date. And so that was where he officially started May 3rd to have our last name, Earlywine.
Okay.
Because in the state of Missouri, when they're born, they take a birth parent's last name. And so the 6-month post-adoption is a huge deal because that's called the gotcha date, where you have your court date and they officially get to share your name.
Okay.
And then it was done. We didn't have to turn in any more paperwork, any doctor's appointments. It was kind of like after that, I was like,
graduation.
I can make a baby book. Like I can do like the normal things now. Because those first 6 months, I was so worried about, sending updates to the birth mother, emailing her, keeping in touch with her, and our agency. And then, and now we still do the updates twice a year with the birth mother and the agency, and things like that. And I love being able to do that because just to be able to show how amazing he is and what a gift and a blessing he is.
Yeah, gosh. And which was the open, well, you talked about at the beginning, right? That open adoption. That's what you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
My goodness. Well, I'm just balling over here. I'll pull this up again because this was probably the most recent, right?
Yeah, that was just at the right the week after Father's Day.
Okay, okay.
I
Gosh,
think
it
June
seems
21st.
crazy from here
Yeah.
or holding him in the hospital till here we are.
Yes. Yeah.
And as you, this one's it might be kind of small for you guys to see, but like Sarah was saying, it's funny how maybe you were thinking about someone that you know that's adopted, and it's so interesting sometimes how, but God, it just has to be how they just take on a lot of the facial expressions or personalities. It's so unreal.
Yeah. And that would have been his gotcha date. That was
Okay,
our second court date on May 3rd.
okay.
And we had our court date virtual at home, and then some family met us for lunch. And then we had a huge celebration later on that month.
So much to celebrate.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, we're kind of people are probably like, it's my bedtime. But I,
I was like, just looked at the clock and I'm like, whoa.
it's a good story. I mean, it's worth every bit of it. And I learned quite a bit too. Yeah, it's one of those things like you don't look into something that you don't need to utilize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but I knew that it was expensive, and I knew that it was a very long, lengthy, crazy process with lots of hoops to jump through. And
Mhm.
they always say like it's unreal how adoption is so hard, but yet it just seems like there's so many children that do need to be adopted or that are in foster care, or it's a whole thing that we don't need to open that can right now. But we'll kind of wrap up with this, Sarah, because I know that there's probably some that are listening or will listen. Oh, there's Angie. Let me see, pull it up for you. She says, "I love you, Sarah. I'm so proud of you and Daniel for so many reasons."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, make us cry again. So, just for someone out there that is struggling, maybe they're going through infertility right now, maybe they're searching out their options, or maybe they've been thinking about adoption. In a nutshell, now that you've experienced it all, you've the highs, the lows, the goods, the bads, all of it, just what is a little nugget that you can give them, a little piece of hope about just maybe that one thing that you learned through the whole process that hopefully would help them?
Just that there's power in the journey. I mean, it's hard to absorb that when you're waiting.
Yeah.
Be prayerful. Um, be able to identify your triggers and prepare yourself for those um, and ways to cope with that. And also, like I said, keep God at the center of everything, trust in His plan. Um, and eventually, you'll see why God planned it the way He did.
Amen.
And it's going to be more beautiful than what you have planned.
That's a word. I was just talking to a grandma yesterday, and I won't say names or anything, but her granddaughter had just lost one, and she knew that I had lost and was kind of asking me for advice or whatever. And I actually have someone coming on the page next week that went through many, many miscarriages, had one kid, went through many miscarriages, and was trying to do the infertility thing too, which was interesting because they'd already had a child together, And it was almost like they wanted it so bad that like they were stressing their body out, and it wasn't in God's time, and they were just trying to like cut to the chase and do their own thing, like you kind of said at the beginning, like, yeah, but I want this so bad, God, like yes, I know you've got a plan, but I've got a plan also, and you know what I mean, let's kind of do it my way, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And it was for the one next week, as soon as she gave it up, it was like it all changed. She
Yeah.
started to have babies again. She has three after that.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you just stress your body and yourself out so much.
Yes. Yes. It's so easy to do. I
It
mean,
is.
yes.
Yeah. So like Sarah said, in God's time, but when you're in the thick of it, and I know this because I have lost one, and I was kind of in that thick of it, that if someone would have said that to me, like to my face, it's okay, it's all in God's time, I could have punched them in the face too.
Oh, that was said to me so many times. Like,
Yes.
it'll happen. Trust in God's timing, and you're just like, really? Like,
Yeah.
I'm counting the days over here. When is it
Yes.
going to
And
happen?
you know it deep down, like you know it's true. And so that's faith that you can
Yes.
hold true to that. Like that is the definition of faith. But
Yes.
man, yeah, when you're at the pit, the rock bottom, like you don't want that's not gonna help, when someone says that to you.
No. No, but I mean, like the support system and like just lean on the people that support you and love you. Um, that's really what got us through. I can't imagine um, not having our people.
Your circle, yeah. Amen.
Um, I cannot imagine, especially our nieces and nephews. I mean, gosh, they were,
And it
yeah,
made you stronger. I mean,
yes,
your family's stronger, your friends more close
mhm,
knit, like yeah,
yes,
there's always a reason, but
yeah,
it can be hard
mhm,
sometimes.
yes,
Hindsight's 2020, but man, in the thick of it, it's hard. Well,
hmm.
Sarah, thank you for taking the time. She put her boy down before we had to hop on here because again, summer months are hard.
That's
But
why it's so late. Sorry.
we did it. We did it. Maybe we'll take the replay too. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Hang on for just a second. Thank
Okay,
you guys. Share this out as always, and thanks for hanging with us. If you know of someone maybe that's dealing with something similar, maybe tag them in this video or something because there was definitely some nuggets that Sarah shared that hopefully will resonate with them. Take care. Happy Monday or Tuesday or whatever day you're watching this. And as always, God bless.